You won't believe how two kids from a tiny house in South Central turned a milk carton guitar into platinum records only to watch success pull their family apart. What happens when unstoppable talent meets impossible pressure? Let's rewind the tape. Before there were screaming crowds and chart hits, there was a dad walking in from work to find his 6-year-old glued to the TV. George Johnson wasn't chasing cartoons. He was hypnotized by Elvis Presley, shaking a leg and commanding a room like gravity itself. During a commercial break, George's dad rinsed out a half-empty milk carton, cut a hole, strung it up, and handed his son a make-believe guitar. That cardboard instrument lit a fuse. While other kids played with toys, George rehearsed for hours, dreaming of the real thing. The real thing came soon enough. With help from an uncle, an actual kit guitar appeared, and George guarded it like treasure. The family rhythm section formed almost by accident. Big brother Tommy Johnson drifted to drums. Little brother Louie Johnson watched from the sidelines until George, fresh off seeing Paul McCartney on TV, pushed for a bass. Low end secured, the boys turned their bedroom jams into a working band with cousin Alex Weir on second guitar. They took on school dances, backyard parties, even gigs for doctors and lawyers anywhere that would pay and let them sharpen their sound. A local radio contest cracked the door. The prize wasn't just gear, it was validation. People were buying their single, calling stations, saying the name. But Los Angeles is a jungle for young musicians. You can be good, great, even, and still get stuck. The brothers needed a leap. That leap arrived with a keyboard legend. One rehearsal at Billy Preston's place turned into an audition for real touring work. Preston, fresh from history-making sessions, needed players with fire and finesse. He spotted both in George and, later, in Louie. There's a story. The family tells, when Preston's bassist flamed out mid-tour, George called home and told their mom to get Louie to the airport now. It sounds reckless. It was genius. George had been teaching Louie every tune off the set list between shows, so when the plane landed, Louie walked on stage like he'd been there all along. Overnight, the brothers went from local heroes to international pros. Then came the moment you usually only see in movies. The brothers were auditioning for Stevie Wonder's band at a major Hollywood studio. In a room down the hall, Quincy Jones was building an album. He heard a thunder of bass and guitar through the wall, poked his head in, and clocked the source. Two brothers who locked like a machine and felt like church. A quiet word to Stevie, a wave to George and Louie. And suddenly, they were in Quincy's room, a bigger room, a richer room, where lush strings and handwritten charts turned songs into cinema. Quincy didn't smother their sound, he magnified it. He brought in masters like Herbie Hancock on keys, stacked harmonies, added orchestra, and still left the core intact. George's knife-clean rhythm and Louie's explosive percussive bass. The result? Hit singles, platinum plaques, and stages that shook under the groove. "I'll Be Good to You" roared up the charts. "Stomp" turned dance floors into stampedes. For a while, it felt like a straight line upward, the dream working exactly as advertised. But every dream has seams, and these started to show in the studio. George was a perfectionist, the kind who would arrive when everyone else went home and stay until morning, nudging guitar voicings one notch tighter. Louie, by contrast, was a phenomenon of efficiency. Lay down the bass, nail it, move to the next mission. As their profile grew, so did outside calls. Louie's phone rang for sessions with Quincy Jones on other projects, then Michael Jackson, the kind of records you don't say no to. Meanwhile, George shouldered more producing, arranging, and polishing for their own albums. The old brotherly rhythm build a song, finish each other's musical sentences slipped into parallel tracks. Creative differences became calendar conflicts, and calendar conflicts turned into bruised feelings about credit, money, and time. A self-produced album underperformed. The label wanted another smash. Radio wanted a single yesterday. The studio stopped feeling like a playground and started feeling like a pressure cooker. In private, the brothers admitted what they didn't dare say on camera. Making music together wasn't fun anymore. They stepped back. No tabloid blow-ups, no public feuds, just two artists walking away before love turned to damage. They called it a break. In truth, the partnership was over. The new decade wasn't kind to players like Louis. Music went digital. Bass lines could be clicked into place on a keyboard. Even legends had to hustle. Louis pivoted teaching, running a bass academy, passing on the slap and pop language he helped invent. But the grind of irregular gigs, the stress of providing, and the tightrope walk of diabetes care wore him down. Alcohol, once a coping mechanism for disappointments, became a trap. Friends noticed the change. The man who used to crush first takes was suddenly fighting his body. In 2015, the call everyone dreaded finally came. Louis Johnson, the thumb behind those seismic bass lines, was gone at 60. The official cause, a catastrophic bleed tied to years of health complications. The grief rippled across genres. Bootsy Collins saluted a kindred funk spirit. Lenny Kravitz and Questlove paid respect to a player whose touch shaped the way popular music feels under your skin. Younger stars were already honoring him without even knowing it. When Harry Styles dropped Daydreaming on Harry's House, listeners heard echoes of that indestructible groove, built by two brothers and a producer who believed in them. If the story ended with charts and funerals, it'd be too easy. The truth is messier and more human. The triumph wasn't just platinum records. It was a father who saw a spark in a kid and fed it with a milk carton. It was brothers who taught each other in the off hours so one could step into a world-class band on a day's notice. It was a producer who opened a door and said, "Your sound belongs in here." And yes, it was also the cost. How success can divide the very people who built it, how personal health can be the toughest gig of all, and how saying, "Let's take a break," can quietly become, "We ran out of time." Listen closely to those records now, the clean chop of George's guitar, the rubber band snap of Louis's bass. Behind the party are two distinct heartbeats trying to stay in sync. Sometimes they did, sometimes they didn't. That's the part the charts can't measure. So what do we take from their rise and heartbreak? Talent opens doors, discipline keeps you in the room. But love, the patient, daily kind, is what holds a band, a family, together. If this story moved you, drop a comment with your favorite groove. Share this with someone who loves real musicianship, and hit subscribe so you don't miss the next deep dive into the music that shaped us. And hey, if you've got a milk carton lying around, you never know where it might lead.